Okay, mic is on. That's oh, I think it might be a little loud. Let me turn that down just ever so slightly. There we go. So today it's Tool Tuesday, and as you can see down below here, down below there, we're doing a nail header. Now you can use basically any high carbon steel, so spring steel. This is actually a bit that got cut off after doing my pickup tongs. So, you know, and if you don't have a coil spring, an old chisel will work as well. But I'm going to use the coil. So, now, this piece will probably be long enough, depending on how long of a handle you want. So I'm gonna just use this. This is a 3/4 inch round, or 20 millimeters, and it's about roughly about 6 inches long. Yeah, I'm gonna be using V-bit tongs with these guys. Now, if you have a long enough piece, you can just use a longer piece and not use tongs. So we get that heated up, and you know, hopefully we have some people join on. YouTube is complaining about not getting enough things, but you know what? My software tells me otherwise. So I got my Twitch chat up there, YouTube up there. So you guys are on, you want to say hi, I would appreciate that. That's no problem. Yeah, Twitch says I'm doing good. So yeah, not too bad. YouTube, let's see. YouTube doesn't seem to be complaining right now, so we'll just let that heat up a little bit in the forge, and we will get going on this. These are other pieces of coil spring. We'll just put that on the ground for another day. Oh, there we go. YouTube says I'm happy. So, just want to check how my cameras are looking. This one looks like it got a little knocked, so we'll just fix that up. Not surprised, a little bit of camera movement around here. Yesterday I was working on my air compressor, so some things have got shifted a little bit to have that, so wow. YouTube is not happy. What is going on? It is a colder day today. I don't know if that's playing around with anything. Yesterday's stream was good. Never complained. So I'm not sure what's going on right now. Yeah. Internet is very finicky today, I tell you. But anyways, we will still crack on as much as we can. If it does get a little jittery, I'm sorry. And of course, YouTube has a delay. Like, I have a huge delay when I'm viewing YouTube. So, like, it's weird. You guys watching at home, it's actually less of a delay than what I get. I'm not sure why that is, but it is. So, I'm actually going to crank up the forge a little bit. I'm going to be doing 10 PSI. So, a little bit louder. It's a little bit colder in the shop today. We are sitting, where are we sitting? A little bit above the freezing mark today. So, it is a little bit not as nice. But that's okay, we got the forge cranked. It won't take long to get heated up. Yeah, so how's everyone doing today? Doing good? So this coil spring is a little bit needs a little straightening. It's a little crooked. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time at this lower heat a little bit, straighten it up. We'll get it back in the forge. Yeah. So to be honest, I really don't do nails that much for my business. A lot of times I will just buy nails. There's still a company in the States that still has their old equipment from like 1700s or something like that. I can't remember if it's 17 or 1800s, where they used to do the clip nails or the cut nails, where they just take a big bar and they slice it into like little triangles, and they just forge the heads to make them look forged heads. I just normally just go out and buy them. For Canadian people, I know Lee Valley used to sell them. And then in the States, I wish I can remember the name of the company, but I'm sure a little Google search will get them, get you there. So, and I have one bolt on my anvil that keeps on loosening up. It's one of the downsides of my concrete being so thin. I only get like 3 inches. That's one of the reasons why later down, when it gets a little bit warmer around here, I plan on moving this anvil back a little bit. That way I can move that camera a little bit back. You can see a little bit more. Also, where it's now, I set it up here originally because I normally worked on this side of the forge and not this side. But the problem with that is when I'm videotaping, I got windows right there. So with the lighting bad enough as it is, it made video recording very hard. So this side of the anvil. And actually, this side of the anvil is not what I normally work on, as in the side that the horn is on and the hardy hole. I normally have my hardy hole on the left side. And that's just personal preference. Really don't like a big yellow bar going. Yeah. Wow. I hope I don't drop off that much. So if you caught yesterday's video, the air compressor is all nice and humming away nicely now. So quite happy with that. I did order a new belt for it, so I'll get that swapped out. I'll save you that pain. Also, the filters. I decided to actually replace both of the housings on where it actually holds the filters. That's just because one of them is pretty beat up, so it's actually letting air in by not going through the filter. And the second one, it is missing a seal on it, which I didn't realize until yesterday when I was cleaning them. So I got new ones ordered. They were really cheap, like $12 on Amazon. So I got a set of those. They're coming today, actually. Again, they're a quick unscrew, screw back in. So I'm gonna save you from watching that, because that's a little less blacksmithy than, you know, tool making or whatever. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually isolate a nub at the front. So I'm gonna take about 1.5 inches. I'm gonna come down half on, half off. I probably should be using my 3-pounder for this. I will switch up hammers for the next heat, I should say. So I'm just setting up a corner, and I'm going to do that on 2 sides, just to isolate this little nub in the front. And because we are on spring steel, I want to keep a good heat on this. Moving spring steel, it takes a little bit more effort, so the hotter you can work it, the better. So I'm just switching to a 3-pound hammer now. I did start today, this stream, with a cold forge, so it is taking a little bit longer to get up to heat. We'll get there. So the other tool we're going to need today for this nail header is a square punch, just much like a round punch, but square. And this one I made out of coil spring. This actually was a spring for a garage door, like a big industrial, like sliding garage door. Very much similar to the steel I use for my center punches. Now, if you don't have spring steel, you could actually just take one of your round punches, like a store-bought round punch, and actually just square it off, and then re-temper it, or heat treat it. So we're going back, and we're just continue to work the shoulders, half on, half off. And this is where we're going to define where the head is of the tool and the handle. And the material I started with was 3/4, so I'm actually working it down to half the size, so 3/8. So just like that. What we're going to do now is draw the rest of that out for a handle. So I'm going to do the next heat the same direction of that heat, as in what I put in the forge. And then once I draw that out a little bit, I'll flip it around and finish off that handle. Making sure I keep my anvil clean. I don't want scale getting stuck in my workpiece. And what I'm doing now is I actually keep a magnet beside my anvil, and I actually collect the scale that comes off when I'm forging. And the reason why I'm doing that is I know someone that does pottery, and she always asks for it. So I save a little bit for her. Anytime she orders something, I send her a little package of that. She mixes it in with her clay, and after firing, it will come up with a little, like, silvery little bits, a little bit of gray color, a little bit of rustiness to it too. Actually, it looks really cool. So I'm just working out this hammer, this handle, making sure I'm not messing up my shoulders. I'm going to straighten up anything as it pops up. I'm going to flip it around so I can start working the other side and get that all stretched out. I'm actually just taking my wire brush. I'm just putting it down beside me because occasionally with the spring steel, the scale really builds up on it. So I like to keep it clean as I can. I'm sorry, I'm just going to take a quick boo of how my connections are doing. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Now I think it's kind of leveled off. Now we're just drawing out the handle as much as we want. Again, with this being spring steel, it does take a little bit longer to forge on it. So, drawing this out will take a little bit of work, but it's not too bad. Now this is something that, if I was doing this, you know, off camera, more for my shop, I would just be using the press to draw this handle out. But for you guys, I will draw it out by hand. So I'm actually going up to my rounding hammer to help draw this out a little bit. This will just basically mean that the impact site that I'm using with my hammer is going to be a little bit more concentrated right at the top of the rounded hammer. This will allow me to move more steel in a smaller spot faster. So we'll see how it works. Normally I don't use a rounding hammer. Some of that just has to do is it's not my go-to hammer. I am very much a cross peen guy. And that is just because that is the hammer I first learned with, and just always done that. Now that I got the handle down here, but where I want it size-wise, I'm just going to take another heat, start rounding that off a little bit, and then I'm going to flip it over again and work in this center here. Getting a little warm in here. not going crazy to try and get this perfectly round. I just want to take down the corners to make it a little bit nicer feeling in the hands. So now that I got it, the very back end, I'm going to flip it around again. So the head is going into the forge. And then on my next heat, I'm going to concentrate on this big blob here and get that worked down a little bit. I will also be changing up my tongs to my V-bit 3/8. So these guys here, which is a V-bit that fits 3/8 square material. These tongs I actually bought from Princess Auto, which is the Canadian Harbor Freight, and been happy with them. They're made by SMF Canada. Yeah, and the nice thing is they actually mark 3/8 on them, so you can quickly know which size you have. This is actually the second tongs I got from them. I also got scrolling tongs as well, and both have been perfectly fine. I picked them up they were on sale one day, and I picked up both of them. Been quite happy with them. So again, using the rounding side of my rounding hammer, just working this down as much as I can. And I'm also making sure I'm not messing up my little ball on the end or my isolation of material. Now, how much you want to forge this down is all up to you from a, handle point of view. If you want a little bit thicker handle, you're more than welcome to have a thicker handle. Also, going on the bit or the horn can help with working material down fast. This again is just isolating or hitting just a small area as opposed to a bigger area. Will help move steel a lot quicker. On my next heat, I'm just going to clean that up a little bit. Square off the corners, and then we'll get onto the head. straighten up this head a little bit. Lock down the corners a little bit. And then on my next heat, I'm going to start actually shaping the head. Take a moment to clean off any scale at the lower temperatures. Now to forge the head, we're going to go straight down with the flat side of our cross peen. We're going to start spreading that out. And then on my next heat, what I'm going to start doing is doming that down a little bit on the sides. And with it at the same direction that we were hitting you last time, that side down, we're going to start going on the edges and just slightly dome this ever so slightly. This will make making the the nail heads a little bit nicer and easier to come down to do your little rosebud things. I'm going to spend some time straightening up stuff. This is more of a personal preference than anything. And then I'm going to take, first of all, take a center punch at this little bit colder temperature. And I'm going to mark where I think center is on this. I'm just going to use that as a guide for my square punch that's coming up next. what I want to do is put the top side down against the anvil, find my center punch, and start going in with my square punch. Every so often go over and quench my tip on my punch. Making sure I'm still where I want to be. I'm going to take another heat, quench my punch. I'm actually going to move my bucket of water a little bit closer. And because this square punch is a little bit small, I am going to grab a glove to hold the punch. I know there is a little bit of a debate about wearing gloves in the blacksmith shop. I'm not. My hammer hand, I very rarely ever wear a glove on my hammer hand. But as for like my tong punch hand, yeah, if I'm going to be working near hot steel, I'll put a glove on. And often it's going to be if I'm working with the tongs and pulling out big chunks of steel from the forge, I'll put on one. Or like in this case where I'm actually working quite close to the hot steel with a punch, I will also put on a glove. So unlike normal when you're doing a hole, you'll go most of the way down one side and then flip it over and finish it off the other side. On these guys, we're gonna actually go all the way in one direction. The reason why I do that is that it will force a little bit of that steel that we're punching through to go up, because that steel will drag against that punch. And what that will do is leave a little bit of a raisedness on the edge of where the hole is. And that will get you nicer, cleaner shoulders when you're actually doing the head. Also, because the punch is tapered, if you went one way and then flipped around and finish it off the other way, you'll start having a taper going inwards and then make an hourglass because the taper on the bottom will be outwards. And what you can actually do is when you're doing your head, you can actually basically rivet your, whoa, Nate, hi. You can actually rivet your nail into your header tool, and they don't come out easy after you do that. So Nate, you missed a whole bunch of stuff. So I was using that coil spring, which is 3/4 inch, to basically tell you what I did. I isolated a chunk on the end, about 1.5 inches, draw out the handle, flatten down the piece on the front, and now I'm doing the punch. I'm starting from the back side or the bottom of the punch. The head tool. And I'm actually going to be punching all the way through from the bottom. Or at least that's the plan. Now, the square punch I'm using is a relatively small punch, so I don't want to go with too many hits, keeping it in the hot steel, or I'm going to have a punch that is also going to rivet itself into my piece. So if this does take you a couple heats to do, it take you a couple of heats to do. Pretty well every hit or two, make sure you're going and quenching that punch. Yeah, sorry, Nate. You might have to watch it again. You know what time I come on? Come on, you've been here enough. You knew what we were doing today. Now I'm using coil spring for the header tool. If you want, you can use an old chisel, no problem. You have one of those lying around. If you really want to get really cheap, if you have worked with files and you've cut off a little bit of the, you have a nice thick file. This one's a little bit thin. You have a nice thick file and you cut off, the tang part of it, but you still have a nice little nub on the front here. You could actually make a header tool out of a file, and then you just have like a wooden handle or something like that to have a, to hold it. So there's lots of option of what steel you could make this from. So just because I'm doing coil spring does not mean you must go out and find coil spring. Now, I've been lucky enough that I've done enough of my own mechanic stuff, basically working on my car or truck in this case, that I have actually a good amount of coil springs floating around. Now, if you don't have that, you can always go to your local mechanic and ask him or her if they have a scrap pile, which they do, of old coil springs that you might be able to get from them. Also, you can just go to scrap yards and buy it off of them. So I'm almost there. I got a little bit of nub still. A little bit of a nub there still. So I'm going to see if I can go all the way through with this on this next heat. What I will do is I will actually take a file to this and file it slightly down. Not going to go too much on that. Yeah, that'll do. Now, I don't want to go too crazy and bash my head down too much. But right now it did kink up from the handle. And that's not a terrible thing. But I'm just hitting right on the tip just to try and get it a little bit more flatter. And you can see that I got a little bit of rag or a little bit of extra material on top. So I'm going to take it over to the vise. And we'll bring you along with me. Maybe a little bit back. Maybe a little back. You don't need that close. There we go. And right now I'm just taking off just ever so slightly a little bit of that. I'm not going too crazy. Just taking a little bit of that little hump off. Pretty well. That is my nail header tool. Probably made that head a little bit small. But you know what? That's okay. So I'm gonna flip you guys around and let's see me make a nail after I quench this. Now, I am not going to heat treat this. It is spring steel. I'm only going to be using it with mild steel. It really doesn't need heat treating. So I'm going to let that air dry a little bit before I quench it. And I am going to come over here and see if I can find a nice piece of 1/4 inch. Nice piece of 1/4 inch. My plan for the nails is probably using them around my house. It depends how many I get done tomorrow. And just bolt cutters. I'm only cutting this because the original piece was a little bit longer than I need. I don't need to fuss around with a 5-foot long piece. So yeah, I haven't really thought of what my plan is for all these nails. And I'm already thinking maybe my little hole for my head is a little bit too small. But we'll try it out and see. Now this was already cooled down enough that quenching it is not going to harden it in any degree. Oh, my punch is still in there. Whoop. Shouldn't forget about that. I'll just put that over there, the air dry a little bit. So now, of course, my handle is just a rough handle. You can make this as purty as you want. And this is also another time I should mention my anvil is backwards for me. Now what I mean by that, me being right-handed, if I'm trying to do this all in one heat, which guys that used to do this would do it, I'd be tapering here, cutting off here, and then trying to do my head over there, where if I was on the other side, it'd be a lot easier. I'll flip you to the other camera so you can see. So like, you know, you gotta think, I'm tapering here, cutting off here, grabbing that piece in there, and then I have to like do my over top, and I hate doing work over top, where over top my hardy, where if I was working from this side, you know, I could do my tapering here, cutting off here, putting a piece in, and then coming in and working it here. It's a lot, you know, it's just that whole, you know, what can you do? Yeah, it is. And that's why a lot of times the older smiths will tell you never, unless you're using your hot cut hardy, don't leave it in. Because would be way too easy for you to, you know, put your hand down right on that. I personally don't like, unless I'm using my hardy, I actually don't like leaving it in. We'll try it that way. See how I like it. Oh. We'll see it how I like it that way. I have a feeling that hole is too small. We'll see, we'll see. So I did turn down the forge. I'm only at 5 PSI right now. I might turn it down a little bit more. And for our nails, all you're doing is doing a nice taper on the end. Just gonna leave them square. Gonna go just above where your taper started. Cut off a chunk of steel. And depending on where your heat is, yeah, I'm gonna say that head is a little bit too small. So let's drift that head out a little bit. Yeah, we'll drift that hole a little bit bigger. Because that would be fine if you're starting off with, say, a 3/16 bar. But with the 1/4 inch, it's too small. So we'll get it stretched out a little bit bigger. It's all good. It's all good. We'll get it all good. And now when we stretch this, we will be going from underneath down or to the front or top. Like I said before, we want to keep that taper going from the bottom up and not have a taper going down, because you're going to wedge the nail into it and make a mess. Where did I put my punch? Oh, here. So we're just going to drift that a little bit bigger. I think a little bit more, a little bit more. And with this, I'm not worried about it doming a little bit more. That actually will help us when we're making the nails. So again, I want to make sure I'm going the right way, just from underneath. I think that's going to be a better size. Whoop. And as I'm straightening it, I'm not hitting where I just drifted. So we'll just let that cool down a little bit. I might take the vise and actually close that up or straighten it up a little bit. It is a little bit heavy domed on the front, not the back. That looks a little better. Going to let that air cool a little bit before I quench it so I can handle it. Talk among yourselves. Okay, let's give that another shot. I'm gonna switch up to my 2-pound hammer though. I don't think I need the 3-pounder anymore. Turn down the forge a little bit. I don't need need a big amount of heat with this. And I know it's still a little warm, so I'm gonna keep my glove on for now. Now again, I'm not heat treating this. The quick quenching that I was doing would not. It was already cooled enough that it won't actually pull any real hardness into it. Now, with this being spring steel, it will slightly harden in air anyways. But with it being spring steel, you really don't need to harden. Yeah, that's better. They're just twist off the piece that we just cut. And apparently I didn't cut off, I cut off too much. Or now I tapered it too much. One of the two. So that's just a buggered up nail. So we'll keep it a little bit longer. No, this is a tool. This is not a jig. Though, in the old-timey days, they would actually have, how it would be set up, or how I've seen it set up, is they've had a wooden stump. They would have a chunk of whatever steel they were using for an anvil. They would actually have a header tool on the edge of the anvil being held up on the other side with something. And then they would have like a cutoff, either as a cutoff that's like hammers into the stump, or they would have a hardy hole on a big chunk of steel. So when they were doing this, it would be like one smooth motion all the way through. And the one video I saw from the time that they actually pulled it out of the fire to when they actually had a nail done, like fallen out of the tool, was 15 seconds. So, anyways. I'm going to take a little bit more for the head this time. We'll see if I have enough heat on this to finish it off. Oh, I dropped the nail. Uh-oh. We'll just count that as number 2 failed. Okay. Get the tongs out of there. Let's go. That was just practice runs. That's all. And now I got too much material. Okay, that was a practice run. Head got a little bit off center, but that's okay. That's okay. So yeah, I'm a little bit off with the head. The head got a little lost. We'll fix that. We'll fix that. I got a lot of 1/4 inch, so we'll fix that. Whoop, whoop. Oh yeah, it's still a nail, for sure. You can still use that. There's nothing wrong. That's a full usable nail. Okay, let's go. I tell you, stepping back to put that back in the forge is not helping my speed. Uh-oh, bending the tip. Uh-oh. I got the nail stuck. Sorry, just dealing with a little bit of spam on my Twitch stream. Sorry, guys. As I'm trying to get this nail that I just got stuck in here out. Come on. It's coming. Why did you get stuck in there? That's a good question. Anyways, this head is going to be a little small, a little thin on it, so I'm going to have to grab a little bit more material next time. There we go. Just fix up the tip a little bit. It's still a nail, it counts. So with that head is a lot thinner than it should be, so I'll have to keep that in mind with the next one. Give myself a little bit more steel for the head. And now I think I grabbed too much steel for the head. Yep, too much steel for the head. So it's just bending over. And I got the nail stuck again. Well, that's just embarrassing. I actually think I drifted my nail head a little bit too much for 1/4 inch, because that one just went straight through. So that's disappointing. So we'll pull out the 1/4 inch, and we'll step up a little bit to 5/16. Yeah. So apparently I now drifted it too big to work with 1/4 inch round. So I'll just move up to 5/16, right? Yeah, I could make another smaller one. Could. So moving up the 5/16 round. Now I heated this bar way too much, so it wants to twist. And I just broke it off before I got into heavy. That's okay. And I grabbed way too much material on this one. Yeah, way too much material on that one. Way too much. No, I would just, once you go kind of too big, it's best just to kind of make a new one. Yeah. Yeah, it's just better to actually go and make a smaller one if you go too big. I'll keep my tongs over here just in case if I do that again. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you don't want to fold over steel into the hole, because then you'll have something that might grab the nail as you're trying to take it out. And I think I grabbed too much again, but we'll see. Yeah, way too much. This is something that you kind of just have to play around with until you find the nice amount of material you need for this. I will get another 5/16 piece going if I have one cut. I think this is it. Yeah. I think that's 5/16. That might be 3/8. Maybe. Yeah. That's okay. One piece is enough for now. Come on. Oh, I'm on the wrong camera. So the head got a little wonky again. We'll get there. Got a little bit of time to play around. Getting there. That head still wants to flop over, so I think on that one I had a little bit too much material on top, so we'll take a little bit less this time. I'm actually going to make a little bit longer taper as well. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's getting closer. And this is definitely something that the more practice you can put into it, the better you'll get at it. Much like anything in blacksmithing. I grabbed too much meat on this one. Yep, too much meat. much meat. Yeah, it seems like that. Slowly getting there. I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna get the ball peen out. I'm gonna try it. Now this is actually quite a light hammer, so it doesn't move steel nearly as much as the other hammer, but I want the ball peen part of it for when I start doing the head. Whoop. Got a little bit too forceful with it. So that end has cooled down a little bit too much. So I'll just give it a little bit of heat before putting it in, and trying the ball peen part of this hammer to see if that helps me a little bit. I know currently my anvil is set up for me to work with a little bit taller material. So what that is happening, and especially working on the opposite side of the anvil, it could mean that my strikes are not coming straight down. So what I'm trying to do with the ball peen is, because it has that ball on the end, it actually allows for a little bit off hits to hit the mark a little bit better and not bend over the head. At least that's the theory. I know going to a ball peen helps me with rivets, so I was hoping that it would help with this too. I'm still off a little bit. Now this might be because I'm reaching over the anvil as well. I won't rule that out. And also I don't want to hit my hot cut. That plays a little bit of psychological on it too. So I'm going to try the same principle with my rounding hammer. And when I start doing the head, I'm actually going to go with the rounding part of the hammer to see if that helps. So that's a lot better. Whoop. It's a lot better. The nail could be straightened, but as for the head, that's dang near center. So yeah, if you're having problems with doing rivets or nail heads of your flat, where it's actually like your flat hammer, try switching up to a different hammer, like a rounding hammer. Now I know some of this is because my hot cut is right here and I don't want to whack it. So there's some psychological stuff going on too. So let's see if I can repeat that. Now, if you do have your piece of material cooling down too much before you start your nail, don't be afraid to reheat it. Oh, I messed up that one. Don't be afraid to reheat it before snapping it off. There's no shame in that, especially if you're just learning how to forge. If it takes you an extra heat, it takes you an extra heat. Don't worry. It's how we learn. I'm definitely not perfect at these. But to be honest, from a nail point of view, I have made probably 12 nails altogether in my blacksmithing career. So, quite frankly, this is learning too. I just realized on the last one, I forgot to flip my round peen, my rounding hammer over, so I was hitting it with the flat. So yeah, that's definitely adequate. So there you go. There's the nail header. Nail header. Actually, it's kinda good that I stretched this a little bit too much into the 5/16 area, because 5/16 I don't use all that much. I have basically hooks that I use it on, and that is it. Where my 1/4 inch, I use a lot of 1/4 inch. So it's actually good to use some of my 5/16 stock with these nails, because I have, how much do I have? 5, 6. I have over 100 feet of 5/16 right now that doesn't have anything called for it. So it would be nice to clear out some of that. So tomorrow I think I'm gonna work on doing nails. And let's see how many I can do. Yeah. Well, I think that's gonna leave it now with my nasty nail header. So thanks everyone for coming out. And tomorrow I will be making as many nails as I can in an hour and a half. You guys can start taking a pool and a bet and all that to see how many. We'll see. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you tomorrow. 1:30 Eastern is when I start, and I'm on Twitch and YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys.